This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight is my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
No punts, no punts, no punts. Gotta love a Thursday night game without any punts. It's
no
great.
punts, a lot of flags. There's always balance in the universe. If you're not going to have one, you're going to get a ton of the other.
That's the No Dunks guys' new football podcast. No punts. That's what they're going to call it. Their new offshoot. I just realized it's in the background because I haven't put it up yet. My dad gave me his old triple threat Vikings poster from the '98 team, which is Randy Moss, Chris Carter, and Jake Reed. And I'm very fired up.
What an addition to the collection. I love that. You're going to have to prominently display that thing somewhere.
I am, but people are going to think I'm a Vikings fan still. So it's like, yeah, but that's the trade-off I'll have to do for an awesome poster. I'm so fired up.
We got an awesome game tonight.
Great.
That was about as fun as it could have been, despite all the flags. All I have to say about the penalties is it's unfortunate when that sort of game happens. There were a couple that were ticky-tack, a couple that was like, it could go either way. The Bobby Wagner one coming over the back, some of the ones outside the numbers that were called defensive holding. My issue with that is more so just the refs inserting themselves into the game that often and ruining the rhythm of the game. Right. I don't think that was overwhelming in terms of how it went and one side getting an advantage over the other. Other than that, though, both of these teams, I thought, played really good football, especially on offense. I mean, these quarterbacks were absolutely slinging the ball around in this game.
It was great. A lot of big boy throws, both over 50% success rate. That's how you know it's a juicy game. They were chucking it. You know, the thing with like a Geno Smith, and I mean, I thought he was great tonight. The play at the end of the half when they had that quickest 2-minute drive of all time, it's just boom, 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 boom. We took a walk to drop off mail. I thought I was gonna be safe. Like, hey, I'll watch it on my phone. I checked out on my phone. Also, I see a corner route to JSN in the end zone. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I left like for 5 minutes. And
I went to make myself like a small salad. I was like, I'll be good to go. This is when I'll eat. I'll be fine. And then obviously I wasn't.
Walking my son before bedtime, and yeah, it was just that quick. But that's Geno. That is how he was on that drive. Also, they were targeting Deron Bland the entire night.
Yeah, they really were.
What was your favorite moment of Deron Bland's Defensive Player of the Year campaign? Because I think it just went up and smoked it.
I do want to be clear about this. I know that the splash plays and the defensive touchdowns were driving a majority of that candidacy.
He has been playing well.
He's actually been playing pretty well. This game was an outlier, so I don't want it to think that this being one of the first games on national TV. I guess they played on Thanksgiving, but one of the first games on national TV against good competition. Where like, oh man, has Deron Bland been really bad this year outside of those 8 plays? I don't think that's the case.
Gilmore's been good too. But I wanted to talk about the play because what they were doing was running a chunk play to get out of bounds. So it was like a bunch formation, I think, but they ran 3 outbreakers into the boundary, a true flood concept, but a deep one. And every team has this, and usually it's near the end of half. You're trying to get a lot of yards and get out of bounds. So you have a short outbreaker, a medium outbreaker, and a deep outbreaker. I would say it's usually split like 60% you hit the short one, 40% you hit the medium one, or I'd say 35% you hit the medium one, 5% you hit that deep one. If you got a baller back there, well, guess what Geno Smith does? He chucks the deep one. It was awesome. That no one does that. That is the alert, I would say, on that play, but no one really does it. But he was like, hey, I got a chance here. I think they had like 9 seconds. So he took a shot. It was awesome. But then they get the PI after the review and all that stuff. And then they get the touchdown on the next play. And they beat man coverage again. So that's what Geno unlocks in this offense. He creates those big plays because he's willing to push it over and over.
If you go back and you listen to the first time to our week 13 preview, I had given up on the Seahawks. I was so frustrated.
Halfway through, I was like,
by the state of their offense coming into this game. And so many of the things we talked about with Geno's ball placement and some of the things they were doing on early downs, getting extra bodies in protection and maybe dealing with defenses that were overmatching them up front. I was like, oh man, there are interesting solutions to problems. Geno and like his aggressiveness, the ball placement, the accuracy combined with the skill position talent. This offense I still find intriguing, even if they've had some issues on third down for a long stretch of this season. Well, guess what? They were 9 of 14 on third down today, and this is the offense that I've been waiting to watch all year from the Seahawks about 4 hours after I wrote them off in the NFC wildcard picture.
It's unreal. As soon as he hit the like little over the basket throw to DK Metcalf on the go, like there's this beautiful catch. I was like, what? You guys couldn't complete one of those in like a month and a half, and then you guys do Willie Mays style, like over the ball. Oh yeah,
the over route to Fant, where it's a really good ball. That's actually pretty good coverage. And that's, I think, something else to point out. Other than the penalties, I think a lot of these plays that were big plays for the Seahawks, the coverage wasn't bad. He's just fitting these balls through a keyhole on so many of these plays tonight. And again, it's just this version of the Seahawks offense that I've been waiting for. We see it in full force. They put up 20 or they put up 30 on the Cowboys defense, and it's still a very good unit. And at the same time, it's not good enough because how good the Cowboys offense is playing right now and how poorly the Seahawks defense is playing right now.
I don't think the Seahawks know how to mitigate their issues right now. It's an issue. And that is, we saw Bobby Wagner get kind of put on an island a couple times. That was the Brandon Cooks touchdown. And that's just, he's best going forward these days, as opposed to anything in the coverage. But also, I think they're trying to figure out how do we work Witherspoon with Jamal Adams and we get all these DBs to work. And that's something we talked about on Thursday. And I still feel that way, where it's just like, the top offenses are just going to shred this defense. Yeah. Because they just don't have the thing to like bring to stop it, if that makes sense. Like just that real identity, that ace card that they can play. And it's an issue. Damn, Dak was amazing, but that Cowboys offense, they're just clicking right now. And just everybody.
That first drive was just such an indication that they were going to be ready to pull all the right levers in this game. The first chunk play they had to Cooks, they motion him into a stack, they lose him on the over route, and then the touchdown to CeeDee Lamb. I know that you were tweeting about it. It's been a big play this year. I think as more teams, a lot of teams are playing quarters down there in the red zone, and it's a really good quarters beater. He motions over, and again, they motion him into a stack, and Witherspoon is playing the outside corner there. Witherspoon widens because of the motion. They run double posts. He has inside leverage on Witherspoon. It's an easy one. The Texans ran it for a huge touchdown on their late game drive where they came back to win that game earlier in the season. So we've seen that.
The Seahawks ran it later. That was the penalty that JSN got got the flag in the red zone. The first one on Stephon Gilmore. The same exact concept. They both ran double posts, which is awesome because they have quarterbacks that are willing to rip it. Russ was pretty good at it in college, but like that was one. It's like you have to be perfect on it. You can't be a hair late, and the receiver has to be at the perfect spot, at the perfect time. There's no waste of fat. CD doesn't run the route right. He doesn't, but he's good at it. So it's kind of
Why do you say that?
He's supposed to take an extra step. He gets to it too quick. He gets to it too quick. But because of how he moves, it works. Because because he's so funky, but it's not like how I would teach the steps. He has to take an extra like rotation on it.
Gotcha. Okay. When I was watching it, he pushes it outside a little bit, which I think sells it even more. Okay. That's that part of it. I was like, all right, that seems correct.
The real double post, which the Seahawks more of ran, is you're supposed to run a Dino route, which is a post corner post. Yeah. And because that's supposed to give the play space and room and time, because you have an inside post, they kind of just do like a boom, boom, like a shimmy. But again, he makes it work. And I mean, they've scored 4 or 5 touchdowns I can recall to CeeDee Lamb. Like they are the best at it. And the other receiver in the league that's really good at it, weirdly, is DeMarcus Robinson. Like he's the Chiefs.
Yeah, I remember because
the Chiefs would only put DeMarcus Robinson
that all the time. I remember you tweeting about that. That's like season 1 athletic football show stuff. It is. The Dino routes to DeMarcus Robinson.
Same stuff, but it was 20 personnel. It was classic. It was like an old school. I mean, this is as good as they come. We ran at Wisconsin. This is early 2000s, late 90s. I mean, 90s football, quarters coverage versus double post in the red zone versus with a fullback on the field. Like it's as good as they come. It says, but that's what football's kind of going through right now. That's what the phase we're going through right now.
Those designs in those moments, I think, a real indication of a lot of the stuff we talked about on the preview show with Dallas just doing so many dynamic things on offense in terms of design, in terms of the ways that they're just constructing this thing. And then you have a quarterback who is playing at an insane level.
Yeah.
Like the way that he is playing right now, and today was another entry into that. It's hard to fault almost any decision that he's making. He took a couple sacks tonight, but got out of one on a huge play where he wrestled away from Darrell Taylor. I mean, the only play where it's like, I don't know about that one, and he still almost fit it in there, was the heat check seam throw to CeeDee Lamb on the goal line.
He was just, that was a true heat check. That was
it absolutely was.
Same drive that he ran out of the sack and hit the other ball. And that was another design thing. You're right though. Like the play that I was like, holy crap, Mike McCarthy is feeling it, was the jet sweep to CD in the 4-minute drive.
It's a great call.
That is
and all the tight end screens. They several tight end screens to Jake Ferguson. One of my favorite parts of this entire game. One, Jake Ferguson's like a real player.
He's good.
So them tapping into that, and then them getting some secondary playmakers on top of just all of the dynamic motion that is now a part of the offense. Again, we talked about this on the previous show. You guys can go listen to it. The dangers of talking about a team right before they play on Thursday Night Football. But a lot of the things
first half, I was getting
a lot of the stuff that we talked about kind of came to fruition there. I think the elements of motion and just dynamism within the offense compared to how static and condensed it felt over the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you can really feel that. But I also think that Ferguson's emergence adds another layer to how dangerous this team is. But the timing of the screens that they were calling in this game, so often just the right lever to pull at the exact right moment. And that has been the case with Mike McCarthy as a play caller since the bye, essentially. Mike McCarthy as a game manager late in this game, I think we could maybe take some issue with.
Right at the end, I was like, what is going on? Because when they threw on third down, I was like, oh, they must be going for it on fourth down, because they said, screw it, we're trying to get it anyways. And then they kicked the field goal. And
if I have 3rd and 3 with a minute and 40 seconds left, I think you should absolutely go for it, because trying to go up 6 with a field goal is not the correct choice. But if you run it twice, you are giving yourself an opportunity to go for it on 4th down, and you're ticking off 45 seconds from the clock when they have no timeouts.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that's supposed to be the double benefit. And if you do pass, you usually go with like a naked. So it's like you get the guy on a move, and so he can just go down, and then you can make a decision on 4th down. But yeah, that was a choice. I was like, that is be aggressive, be aggressive. But because that was a double move. They went for a slant. They went for a sluggo.
Yes.
That was a true dagger. Like I couldn't believe it. I know when they showed the replay, I was like, you guys went with a sluggo there. But that's how they're playing. They have the utmost confidence they're going to win every game. You can tell that game, even the defense, how they play. They kind of, okay, let's pick it up a little bit, but that's where the Cowboys are at. They're one of these teams that can turn it on, but the offense from their opening scripts are great every game, and then they continue to make adjustments throughout the game, and they just know how to highlight their guys. It's awesome stuff. Ferguson's awesome. Cooks is really heated up. Everything's clicking right now.
The other thing I liked with Ferguson, in a game where we got literally 19 penalties for 257 yards, it was ridiculous. They called no taunting calls, and they let them talk so much shit throughout the entire game. It was amazing.
That moment, Adams' face.
That moment where Ferguson gets lit up by Quandre Diggs, and then he gets in Adams' face, and then he dunks on Adams for the back shoulder touchdown later in the game. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And the fact that they let them jaw at each other throughout, despite the tone with all the other penalties that were happening, one of my favorite parts of the game.
It was a competitive game in a good way. It was it was great. Yeah, and the penalties were all because of aggression. It was handsy. That's how both of these corners play, or both of these corners are taught to play. Both of these teams, I should say. They're taught to be handsy. Make them call it. The rest said, bet. They said, okay. They said,
we will call it. Yeah, it felt like a 2014 Seahawks game, not a 2023 Seahawks game.
Right. I know, but they were just like, okay, well, Cleat was like, hey, I'm on TV Thursday night. Yeah, let's do it. I do want to talk about too is that CD put on a freaking clinic as a route runner tonight. They had him do
fire.
The wonky double post is whatever. And the other thing though is they had the 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, I think it was the Colorado route, which is a slant return route. And
just cooks Woolen on it. Absolutely cooks him.
One wasn't even on the screen when they showed the replay. But that's a advanced route. You asked the aces, the top route runners to run that kind of route. That's like, hey, you have to earn that amount of XP in the video game to earn that route. And like CD this season is just like he's running everything. His feel over the middle is one of the best in the league at any position. Like just his feel for zone, on seams, on benders. I really enjoy watching him and Dak kind of go at it now that they've kind of truly made him the alpha of this attack. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, and with Dak playing at this level, it just highlights how good he's been to an even bigger degree. I mean, that connection has been really fun to watch. Two things I wanted to talk about just situationally for Seattle near the end of the game. No answers when Dallas was bringing pressure in two of the biggest moments in the entire game. That's the third down incompletion. I believe it was on third down. It might have been fourth down. The one where he just kind of desperation heaves it to JSN.
That's fourth.
Corner route.
Down.
That was fourth down, fourth and short. And then the last fourth down of the game, kind of a disappointing lack of answers in those moments for Seattle. Not sliding to Parsons and then just not having any sort of answer on the previous fourth down where he was forced to just chuck it up to JSN.
Yeah, I thought the last fourth down was they were running a running back leak play across. And so they were that's why they slid away from it, because you don't want to slide into the running back into it. And so that's what the Cowboys do. They know they can maybe get you an empty protection because it's fourth and short and you're trying to get all five out like they were. But they put DeMarcus Lawrence and Parsons on the same side. So whoever an empty protection is going to be the last man on the line of scrimmage is going to be free and hot to the quarterback. So you have 4-3 and change running Micah Parsons as that hot guy, as opposed to like a DB or an outside linebacker other teams have. So like, like it's a real heat coming at you, but he got stuck. And this is why with Charbonnet getting injured sucks, because that was for sure for Charbonnet. So DJ Dallas, who's more of a special teamer, gets hooked. How about DJ Dallas learning his lesson about throwing the ball, not throwing the ball on the double pass? That was a callback. That was a season 3 callback.
For you guys that don't remember, it's still one of the greatest plays I've ever seen in an NFL game. When the Seahawks go,
so
what personnel would that be?
I think it was 3 or 4 running backs on the field. I want to say
it was. I believe it was 3 running backs on the field at the same time. It was like a full house backfield. They gave the ball to DJ Dallas on a little rollout, and he threw it directly to a defender in the red zone.
And you
it was 2 years ago.
I want to say it was last year.
Oh, was it last year?
You can see his entire body go, "Don't throw this. Do not throw this." And someone did a voiceover.
I can't believe they let him try again.
They did it again. And did you see the sideline? Like they always just went, "Hey, like good job." You could tell they remember what happened last time. I couldn't believe it happened again. I know, it was great. He learned though. He's coachable. He learned from his mistakes.
I loved watching this version of the Dallas offense because it was a little bit different than what we've seen over the last month or so. We mentioned this on the preview. They were really just bombs away against some of these lesser defenses. The Seahawks tried to put a roof over them for most of this game, and Dak still was just able to be surgical in those underneath areas of the field. I mean, their average air yard was like 5.5 in this game. Some of that is screens, but for the most part, they were definitely less aggressive pushing the ball in this game than they've been. Still just as dynamic, still just as dominant on offense as we've seen them be over the last month. Again, when you trot out takes on a preview show 4 hours before the Thursday night game is going to start, they can go south in a hurry. But
big takes too.
Big takes. So I sitting there at about 4 p.m. Central Time today being like, I feel like Dak is the MVP right now with the way that he's playing. Tonight, another entry into that. He is in a special stretch of quarterback play right now, and this is just the latest chapter of it.
He's seen the game at just a perfect level. There's nothing, you kind of hinted at it, but when I rewatch him and just even in real time, he's always going to the right spot at the perfect time. And when he can't, or or something gets covered, the creation is just as good. And you talked about it. What was it? The most EPA generated outside the pocket.
EPA per drop back outside of the pocket. He leads the league this year.
And he had 3 of those tonight. And the huge one running out of the sack. One of them was on a play action where they had Turpin and Cooks in, I believe. And they tried, it might have been Tolbert, but they just had like the sub receivers in, and they ran a play action because they're trying to go like, hey, we're running the ball, got the backups in, nothing to worry about. And they run play action. And it was so cool on that to see Dak create and just make a big play out of it. And I just remember that because I was like, why do you have those 2 little guys in? Like there's something, like I went, woo, woo. And of course it was play action. They tried something. But again, even when it goes unscripted, he's creating. But when everything is scripted, and when you have CeeDee Lamb winning over and over, you have Jake Ferguson, like all those balls of Jake Ferguson I joke about, like the seam balls, that is technically the correct answer. That is, but not a lot of guys do it because you get your guy killed. And if you're late or if you're wrong, what happened last year to Dak Prescott. Tip balls end up in interceptions. And a lot of guys go, hey, my contract might be coming up. And, I don't really want those. How many people hung on to those interceptions after that? Even if we could break down every single one and go, that one's tipped, that takes continued aggression. And this year it's just hitting one after another, one after another, one after another. And it's just a complete team effort. And he's playing like the MVP right now.
Let's go from good to bad. concerned about the Dallas defense, or one-off game against a guy that was just slinging fireballs for 4 quarters?
I think there was a little bit of fireballs going on. I think it was a little bit of arrogance on their part, just how they played. Like they felt very lackadaisical. I felt like for the first quarter and a half. And I get it. I don't know, this wonky Thursday to Thursday must be so weird schedule wise. Play Thanksgiving and then play a following Thursday game as opposed to the usual 10-day. So I always think that's kind of wonky too. But I am a little concerned because I felt like the middle got peppered a little bit along with Bland. Bland is going to be a kind of a big game hunter anyway, so it happens. And I think he's not going to get called for all these penalties like he did tonight too, and that affected some things. But I think some of the stuff over the middle is a little concerning, but also it's like you got to have the weapons to do it. And again, it's just like only a couple teams can do that.
We'll see what happens next week. Believe who do they have next week? They have Philly next week again?
Philly, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, the reason that I don't know is because they have so many good games coming up here. So they have Philly next week, but then they
put up the schedule. It was like boom, 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 boom.
So I know. After Philly, it's the Bills.
Okay, I'm worried about that.
On the 17th, Dolphins on Christmas Eve, and then the Lions on the 30th.
Interesting. Those are all great. Different flavors too.
Philly and the Lions both in prime time. So a good test for the defense moving forward, essentially every week here over the next 4 weeks, and continued tests for Dak. You know, everything that we've said about the way he's playing, all the numbers he's putting up. I mean, the stat they showed on the Prime Vision broadcast today, I think it was since week 8 or something, like total EPA generated among quarterbacks. He was in the 60s. No one else was above 30. And what he's done over the last month is a huge gap.
He's a monster.
The competition has been terrible.
Right.
So it's important to stack up games against good defenses. Even Seattle's defense is struggling. So I think that's important. He played well against Philly. So he's really ticked the boxes in some of these games, even if they haven't won. But this is going to be a really, really good test here because Miami's defense is playing excellent.
Yep.
And Philly, obviously, that game is going to be huge.
Yeah.
On the other side of this, Seattle now is 6-6 in an NFC wildcard race that is brutal. A Packers team playing much better.
You want to know how brutal? We did about 30 minutes on it. That's on our show today.
We absolutely did. And we assume that Seattle is going to potentially lose that game and fall to 6-6, but they're in real danger now of potentially missing the playoffs in a season where they made some pretty aggressive team building moves to assert themselves in the NFC conversation. They get the Niners next week, and then they get the Eagles after that. So they're staring down a pretty tough stretch here as they're trying to fight and scrap for their playoff lives. And that's just not where I expected this team to be.
They go, okay, at San Fran after they hit 10 days, which is nice. They have to reconfigure some stuff on defense. They can't. Yeah, they're trying to do too much at once. They're trying to make all these guys work, and they have to figure out. They have to make some sacrifices. They're like, that's just. I just have to say that again. I listened to today's show earlier, and that's kind of like my real feelings on it. But at San Fran, then they host the Eagles. Okay, that's Monday night. Then they have a short week at Tennessee. That's what. Okay, and then you go to hosting the Steelers, a nice physical game for you on New Year's Eve. And then
they got to win all 3 of those. They have to somehow, they have to win all 3 of those, I think, even if they want to have a shot.
And then the Cardinals, who are annoying right now.
And then they have the Cardinals to end the season. So that would get them to 9 wins if they did all that. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
It's crazy.
Right? I think it's going to be a tight race to get those 2 final spots based on the way the Rams can play at their best. And we've seen that based on what the Packers are doing right now. So, and then even the Vikings, the Vikings defense, we talked about that, how wonky they can be. So that wild card race in the NFC and who gets those is going to be really fun to watch.
I'll say, I do how this offense played tonight, how this offensive line played tonight. They put Charles Cross on an island over and over. Oh my God, poor guy. He did really well last week against Chase Young and Nick Bosa, but this was an interesting matchup for him. But I thought how this offense played, like you kind of were saying, is like, this made me feel a lot better about all of them. And also seeing Geno kind of get some stuff in his way or go his way. Like the first touchdown of DK Metcalf, I felt like for 6 weeks that would have been picked off or that would have been tipped or anything. And now
it just would have been an incompletion. They had so many tight window throws today that had fallen incomplete for them for most of the season got completed. You can look at that one of 2 ways.
Right.
You can look at it as, all right, they finally got a stretch, or we're going to go back to similarly unwatchable football next week if every single one of those tight window throws ends up falling incomplete.
Right.
So I feel better about them than I did this morning, but I still have my concerns because this feels like a blip compared to what we've watched for most of the year.
I feel better about the where this offense is, but the defense is actually even more. I'm even more kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, because I'm trying to figure out what their answers can be. So I'm gonna be interested what happens after this kind of 10-day kind of mini bye.
It was almost frustrating to watch the offense and just know that they have this gear against a really good defense, and we just haven't seen it all season.
They were taking it to him.
They were taking it to him.
Yeah.
And we talked about it all year. Over the last 5 weeks, they have converted about 26.5% of their third downs, which is the third worst mark in the league. The only offenses that have been worse are the Jets and the Giants. And then they come in today and they just roast the Cowboys on third down throughout the entire game.
It's insane.
So we'll see what the Seahawks offense actually is here down the stretch, and specifically over the next couple games as they play some really good defenses, including a rematch with the Niners next week.
What a great game, though. I'm so glad. That was a great game. That gave us a lot to talk about. Some good stuff, some good touchdowns. It's nice when the big plays I can break down the touchdowns too, because then I could just go, remember this touchdown, as opposed to going, remember 4:50 left in the second quarter, and it was an 8-yard gain. So that was great. So I appreciate them doing the cool stuff to score points. But great game between, I think, a very good team and a solid but flawed team.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's one more entry into the Dak is playing better than he ever has kind of narrative that has been building here over the last 6 weeks or so. Yep, I'm with you. All right, that is all we've got. As we alluded to several times on this show, we have a Week 13 preview that is available wherever you get your podcasts, talking about some of the coaching carousel concerns, kind of considerations that have come up over the last week. We dug into the NFC hierarchy conversation with the Niners, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. Glad a lot of that stands after this game, which is always nice. And like Nate said, a big discussion about the NFC wildcard race and which teams we're feeling good about as we get to the home stretch of the season. For now, though, that is all we've got. Sincerely appreciate you guys listening. We will be back on Sunday night right here, breaking down all things Week 13. In the meantime, appreciate you. Talk to you soon.